Hey folks, thanks for coming. Welcome to our session called Crafting Intelligent GitHub Bots. My name is George, and I'm with
Guillaume,
my friend and colleague Guillaume. We both work at Red Hat, and what we're going to try to show you today is how you can create intelligent GitHub bots, meaning using GitHub APIs and some artificial intelligence that you've been hearing all about. So let's go like really quickly and show why we're going to use this stuff and in what context. So first of all, we both work on the Quarkus project, and so we want to show you like how important GitHub and its relevant features have become for the project. So the project last month, I got a screenshot, and our CI usage was 758,710 minutes, right? So for an entire month, we had like almost 1 million minutes of CI usage. So like on every pull request, we run a whole like thousands of tests. These take a couple hours or something like that, depending on the graph. So you can see like we are stressing GitHub to like almost as much as it can go. Now, the other two graphs, you see like how many Git clones we have, like over 1,000 unique visitors. And the interesting thing that Guillaume pointed out that I hadn't seen was when you go to the commits, GitHub says like, you have too many commits, I can't plot it on a graph. So that was, I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, an important milestone for the project, like just a few days before this conference, we reached 1,000+ unique contributors, right? So say thank you to everybody who has contributed. I know there are people in this room. So that's made our job amazing. It's made the project so much better. And please continue to do so. Now, very quickly, not to boast, but to just show you like why we think that you should listen as much as you can to us on this topic. Guillaume is the #1 contributor on the project. I'm the #2. And besides all the coding we do, we are on GitHub all day. We are on our community channels all day. So we have like from the trenches as possible an experience with all stuff related to GitHub and issues and what people ask of us and what people think is not good or is good. So yeah, hopefully like you'll get something out of this from people who work on this day in and day out. And if you think that we're not doing a good job, that's great. We want to hear about it. If you think we are, then thumbs up would be nice. Now,
so first, why should you even look at GitHub automation? I don't know if you know this expression, death by 1,000 paper cuts. So it originates in history as to how people will torture you. Nowadays, it's more how you torture yourself with a ton of small pain points that makes your job a lot harder, makes you slower, and also can even paralyze your projects if you take it at scale. So first, a small question. Who uses GitHub here? Raise your hands. Yeah, so
almost everybody.
Everyone. Yeah. Next question. Who has developed a GitHub app? OK, so we have 1. Nice to meet you.
Oh, 2. I think we have a second one, too.
2? Sorry.
Yeah.
So let's take an example of the daily life of a Quarkus developer. For the sake of the example, we will call him Guillaume. Really, any resemblance? Yeah, any resemblance with an existing person would be coincidental. And so so Guillaume is in the middle of a coding session, which happens sometimes. And someone is coming, and yeah, so I submitted this PR, CI is failing. I have no idea what's going on because I don't know if the failures are random or if it's flaky test or whatever. So this is a musical interlude. So we are in a cinema, so imagine some very loud Dolby Surround elevator music, whatever. And we are going to have some fun. So the first thing you need to do is to have a look at the GitHub status. You don't have details here, you just know that the jobs are failing. We have, for every pull request, we start 43, 44 jobs. So you can imagine how it can be overwhelming. The next step is that you click on the job, and then you have this very welcoming GitHub message explaining you that your log is too large, and so you won't have the details. So then you click on the small cog at the top, and you download the raw logs. The raw logs are huge, so you wait for them to log, then you scroll at the bottom, and they are huge, so you scroll for a long time. Then you scroll back a bit, you get to the module failing. Sometimes there are several of them, and then you have to look in your log for the modules and try to figure out what's going on. And we got to the actual test failure, and we got the details here. Obviously, it's all about scale, meaning that if you are doing that once a day, it's not that big of a problem. If you are doing that 20 times a day, and that the project is huge, as the Quarkus project is, then it starts to become a problem. And you might not see it, you might not notice it if you have small project, but the pain is here. And you only notice it when you take a step back, you have a look at your months, and you try to analyze the pain points that made your life a lot harder. The real problem is really about context switches. So when you switch context, when someone interrupts you, sure, you are wasting like 5 minutes helping these people. It's not time wasted. You actually help someone. But then you have to come back to your initial topic. And this is when you actually waste time, because you have to go back to your initial context. You probably have forgotten a bit about what you were doing, and you had everything in mind, and you have to switch context. And that is what actually costs you a lot. The thing is that you don't need AI to be smart. We have 2 extensions for you. One is Quarkus GitHub app. The other is Quarkus GitHub Actions. No surprises here. The first one, you will develop GitHub apps. The second one, you will develop GitHub Actions. So the GitHub Actions are the small reusable action that you can run into GitHub Actions. So basically, you can develop some code and make use of it in a GitHub Actions workflow.
Who uses GitHub Actions? So at least half the people. That's great. Yeah.
OK. And we already developed the GitHub action, the small part. OK.
Oh, more than the app. Very nice.
Yeah, more than the app. The thing is that we did it the Quarkus way. So it has no boilerplate. You can just code your things. And it comes with a Quarkus DevJoy, so the live reload, which is extremely useful when you are actually working on interactive applications, which is the case for GitHub apps. So what is a GitHub app? First thing you need to do when creating a GitHub app is registering your GitHub app on GitHub. So you have to create it. You have to say, oh, here is the name. Then I want to listen to these events. I want to give these permissions to the app. And here is my endpoint. Obviously, there are a lot more to it. You will create a private key. You will create a secret, things like that for security, and a few other things. But that's the gist of it. Once your app is registered, GitHub will start sending payloads to your app. So as soon as it's registered, it starts sending the payload. It can be payloads for issues. It can be for pull requests. It can be for workflow run, for basically any event on GitHub. It can be for issue open, closed, whatever. You can tweak that. And then at the other side, you have the GitHub app. So its job is basically to check that the request is legit. Usually, you check the signature, and you say, oh, OK, it comes from my GitHub app, so it's fine. I can handle it. And then it will do stuff, whatever you want, really. And usually, you will make use of the REST API or the GraphQL API to do something on GitHub. And that's really as simple as that. It's really complementary to the GitHub action because it's a lot better when you are dealing with interactive things. When you want to react to a particular event right now, you don't want to start a workflow, you don't want to start an Ubuntu server, whatever, and do things. You want to react it quickly with your app. So we have this small example. When you develop Java libraries, quite often you have the usual bug report about OSGI not working with some weird class loader issue. And usually it's impossible to reproduce if you don't have a reproducer. And even if you do, you have a weird reproducer with a ton of stuff. So can we actually just close these issues? And we will have a look at how we can do that. So the first thing that you want to do is to actually create the GitHub app. So this is maybe a bit small. So the first thing you want to do, you create the GitHub app with Quarkus. You add the GitHub app extension. Then the only thing a bit complex, let's say, is that you have to copy the .env file. It contains the private key and a few options, configuration properties. And then your GitHub app is ready. So let's do that. And so we are also starting Quarkus in dev mode, so you can see the dev mode loading. And from there, we won't have to do anything with Quarkus. We will just code our application. The interesting thing to see is that we also have something called the replay UI, which is connected, and it will receive the events. You can replay them. You can have a look at them to understand what GitHub
so
is
this
sending
is
you.
built into the Quarkus extension, right?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
So let's have a look at the code. So yeah, we are both using different IDs, so we thought we would use a third one to make sure that we are equally bad at it. So we will be bad.
We split the badness.
So yeah, so we will close.
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm French. I'm using a French keyboard.
yeah, so
and,
in addition to using different IDs, he uses a French keyboard, I use an English keyboard. He's going to sit, I'm going to be standing up. So yeah, a lot of separation here.
OK. So let's create a class. This one is easy. Then we will just create a method, so it will just close the issues. And this is where the magic starts, meaning that what we want to do is actually listen to an event. And what we want to listen to is the issue being opened. OK? And then we will just inject the payload. It's going to be an issue. And we will have an issue payload. OK. So this is the easy part. And then what we will do is just have a look at the title. So in the payload, you have the issue. It's there. And then you will just get the title. OK? And then what we also want is the description. Well, we'll just deal with the title. It's an easy example. That's fine. So if the title, yeah, I will not deal with the locale, but you know that you have to do it. And then we will just check if it's actually, yeah, I'm really not used to this ID. If it contains OSGI. And if it does, what we will do is actually comment on the issue and say, I don't know.
OSGI is not supported.
Yeah, surprisingly, I couldn't reproduce your issue. Because, yeah, it's really surprising. And then, yeah, some people in the room have heard about OSGI. And then we will just close the issue. So one thing is that so the API, so there are things coming from the GitHub extension, the GitHub app extension. The issue open thing, the annotation is coming from the GitHub app thing and the Quarkus stuff. This thing the GitHub event payload issue is coming from the up30 GitHub API that we are using. And it comes with a small drawback is that you basically have to throw IO exception everywhere. The nice thing is that it's handled automatically by the framework, so you just throw them from your method and you're done. And so that's pretty much it. We implemented our GitHub apps. So now we just have to pray the demo gods. And we will create a new issue. OK, submit the issue.
OK, let's see. Will it get closed?
Yeah, so we should receive it here. And so 2 things. So it got closed with a comment. And also, we have received the events in the replay UI. So you can have a look at the payload, receive from GitHub. You can copy it. You can replay it if you want to replay the event. You made a mistake. I could have made a mistake in my demo. I can just replay the event without doing it twice. Obviously, for creating an issue, it's not very useful. But when you are dealing, for instance, with workflow runs and you try to analyze workflow run results, it's very easy, very nice to be able to replay it. So that's for this simple demo. And really,
so who found that too hard to do? No one, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point, right? The whole point of the framework that Guillaume created for this GitHub apps was to make it super simple and familiar for enterprise Java developers to do.
Yes, and I mean, even if you don't know Quarkus, you can do it. I mean, I didn't do any Quarkus thingy there. It's really very simple. You can do injection. You can inject a GitHub client, a GraphQL client. There are a lot of features. We will see much more afterwards. But the point is really that we were able to focus on what we wanted to do. We didn't have to do anything crazy. We didn't have to understand what it was to do something in GitHub action, in GitHub apps. And we could just focus on the code and the automation that we wanted to do. Now, the idea is that we want to solve a problem. We don't want to just close the AGI issues, even if it's quite nice. And the problem we wanted to solve is this being able to understand what's going on in my build. So we built an automation based on that, which basically downloads all the Surefire reports, all the logs, analyzes everything, and then create a report that is that has some smart in it. Typically, it will only put the failing jobs because we have 40 of them, so having all of them doesn't make sense. But if you have a GVM built for JDK 17 failing and the GVM 21 is passing, then you will have both, so that you can, just by looking at it, you know that 17 is failing, but 21 is good. And we also have all the failing tests. You can click on the details to have the stack trace. We are also creating annotations in the code, so you can even have a look at the pull request, and you have an annotation created on the code saying this. Typically, if you have a test failing, you will have the exact line, and you can click on the stack trace to have the details. So it's really interesting for us, given our scale. Also, when we created an integration with Develocity, so we have information about the flaky test. We can see the history of the flaky test, make sure that if they are flaky or not. So if we take a step back, this Quarkus GitHub app thing is a Quarkus extension. It allows to develop GitHub apps in Java, so this is obvious. It comes with developer joy, so you have seen that I haven't restarted Quarkus or whatever. I just coded my stuff. This is extremely useful for interactive applications, like I said before. It's stable and fully documented. It has been around for 3 years. We are using it every day. It's used by a lot of projects, Quarkus, Hibernate, Keycloak. Also, the Common House Foundation recently started to use it. It also supports GitHub Enterprise. So if you have your enterprise instance, GitHub Enterprise instance, you can use it. And really, you can do whatever you want. So I gave you a few examples, but you can go crazy. We are using it for a ton of stuff, assigning milestones, making some triage, and this build report thing. And also, it comes with GitHub Actions, GitHub Action extension. The nice thing is that you can use the same code for both GitHub App and GitHub Actions, which we are doing for the build reporter because we have this GitHub App for the main repo, and you can also get the reports in your fork using the GitHub Action part. And we are using the exact same code to do that.
However, like, despite the fact that we have put a lot of effort into this, sometimes users can be, let's say, cleverer, right? So in this case, what we said is, so somebody opened an issue, right? And we're like, okay, that sort of makes sense, but can you like give us something, a reproducer, a sample project that we can use to actually like run this locally? And this is what they came up with, right? They pasted a mega screenshot of Swagger and what looks like VS Code and some terminal output, right? And as a developer on the project, a maintainer of the project, you cannot make sense of this, right? This does not give you any valuable information. It just like wastes your time completely. So up until very recently, we had like very little means of handling some cases that actually like required like natural language processing or like image processing or stuff like that, right? But since last year, actually, DevOps Belgium, 2023, when LangChain4j was announced, we have put a significant amount of effort into integrating it with Quarkus. Now, who has not heard of LangChain4j? Not. So one person has not heard of LangChain4j. Okay, so LangChain4j essentially makes consuming large language models in Java very, very easy. Now, here's the follow-up question. Who is sick and tired of hearing of LangChain4j at DevOps? A few people, yeah. So you need to bear a few more days because there are a bunch of more talks here. So I'm not going to describe like all the building blocks of LangChain4j. We did that yesterday in a deep dive. Hopefully it'll be on YouTube today. Also, there are a lot more talks today, which will go into details. But what we're going to focus on is like use cases, how we consume these large language models inside a GitHub application. Now, very, very high level, like LangChain is a framework that originated in the Python space. It also exists for JavaScript. And Dmitro, who is not here, unfortunately, this year, worked on like porting the similar ideas to Java. So he came up with LangChain4j, and we in the Quarkus team have been working on a Quarkus-specific version of LangChain4j since last year, and that's what we're going to be using here. Now, very, very high level ideas of what the building blocks are. So there's a way to handle like prompts. There's a way to consume responses from APIs and turn them into Java POJOs. There's a way to handle chat memory, way to create agents. So that's the function calling, all that stuff. We're not going to go into details here. Obviously, there's extensive support about everything RAG, so retrieval augmented generation, which everybody's talking about. Guillaume is gonna show some stuff about how we use it in GitHub apps. But what we're gonna be focusing on consuming here is the AI service. So AI service is basically for you as a consumer of this API. You declare an interface, and we implement that interface behind the scenes. So very similar to, let's say, Spring Data JPA, right, where you just define methods and the framework implements them for you. But in this case, the implementation is backed by large language models. Now, the natural question is, okay, well, what does Quarkus bring that the library LangChain4j doesn't? Well, because we're a framework and because we can do a whole bunch of things that a standalone library can't, we provide a heck of a lot of stuff out of the box to make your life easier. So declarative clients, just like I said, the the AI service. So CDI integrations, which means that the entire Quarkus programmatic model that you know of, which is based on CDI and microprofile stuff, all that just works. Observability out of the box, so you get like metrics and tracing with zero effort just by adding the proper extensions. We have auditing, we have resilience and the, fault tolerance, so you just continue to use the fault tolerance programmatic model that Quarkus has that works out of the box. RAG, tool support, this stuff is mockable, so very good for testing. So a bunch of stuff. Hopefully, if you're interested in this, we did a deep dive yesterday with Eric and Clement. You can hopefully check that out on YouTube. It's 3 hours, a ton of content. So if you want more details, that's the place to find it. Now, let's try and code a simple example.
Let me clean up my mess.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah. We'll start out by live coding, assuming I can on VS Code. A very simple example of of a use case which it would be very hard to use to like do what we want to do without AI's help. And we're going to see like how little code you actually need in order to do this. So what do we want to do? What we want to do is that when you're developing a project like the size of Quarkus, that you have a ton of people coming in, like contributing from and reporting issues from all over the globe, right? But like the lingua franca of development is English, right? Like that's the only thing that is common. Like you know that everybody that working on the project knows English. So when somebody comes in and like wants to write Greek, right, or Chinese, like I can't expect anybody to know that. So what we want to do is develop a simple like listener, whatever, that will comment that if it's not in English, like say it's not in English and close the issue. So very similar to what Guillaume did, but we're going to inject a little intelligence, right? So let's start out by saying, let's define the language detector. Okay, now, so we're going to make this an AI, register AI. Oh, nice. So we have no code completion for now. That's cool. So I'm going to have to, let's say, don't save. I'm going to exit VS Code and restart it. And hopefully that will get my code completion working. Because this
is not the right project.
Oh.
You're in the...
Okay, yeah. So this is, no, this is, it is, yeah, this is your OSGI thing. Okay. So we will go and, let's see, my GitHub app. So this is yours again. Okay. Now we need to find the actual project.
Yeah, you need to open
I'll do it differently. Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So we go to desktop. No, it's not here. Projects, GitHub, and it's in. It was? Oh, okay. Well, right. Yes, you're right. The bot. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So let's see. Hopefully, code completion works now. Oh, it's still opening. Register AI service. There we go. Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare an interface that all it's going to do is its job is going to detect whether the text that we provide it is English or not. So, and this is all like plain Java, right? Is English string title, because there's a title and there's a body to every GitHub issue. Now, here's where we're going to give instructions basically to the AI to tell it what we want it to do. And we're going to say, your job is to detect the language of the text. That's it, right? So we're setting the context. That's what the system message is. It's a high-level way of telling the LLM the context of what you are expected to do. And now, the user message is what we're going to pass in as content, right? So we're going to tell it, okay, the text that is delimited by this. Oh, no, sorry. If the text that is delimited by is in English, return true. Otherwise, return false. And now, so we're going to add the delimiters. And here is where we are going to make this a template, essentially. So we're going to say, now here, this is what we're telling the LLM. We're telling it, like, take this text that we're going to give you in this template and tell us return if it's English or not. But because this is not, like, we don't know what the user is going to provide, we have to make this a template. And that's what this does, right? These are template variables that essentially will get replaced by this. So this is like super straightforward to understand, even if you've like never seen Quarkus, even if you don't know that these are like Quarkus Qt templates, which they are. It's straightforward to understand, and that's the whole point here, right? So this is our AI service that detects whether something is English or not. But now we need to write the glue code using the GitHub app stuff. Okay, so let's go to language detector. Language listener. Let's create a listener, and we will go. We'll say, first of all, we are going to inject the language detector, right? So just like I said earlier, the AI stuff that we created is available through the normal Quarkus programmatic model, which in this case is CDI. So we're injecting the language detector that Quarkus makes available for us. And now how are we going to use it? We're going to use it by creating a listener as Guillaume did earlier. Oops, sorry, that shortcut doesn't work in VS Code. So we're going to say issue opened GH event payload issue. I'm going to say payload. Now I'm going to say var issue is payload.getIssue. I'm going to say string title is issue get title. String body is issue get body. Now, this is the same as what Guillaume did earlier, but what Guillaume did is he just took the text, right, and said, like, if it contains OSGI, then, like, close the issue. But there's, like, no way in a normal, like, enterprise way or, like, non-AI way to detect the language using that kind of stuff. So you need, like, something like natural language processing, but what you get with AI models, like stuff like what ChatGPT does or all the other cool stuff that exists out there, is that you get this kind of language detection for free. So basically all we need to do is say detector is English, title and body. So if it's not English, we're going to say that, you know what, issue comment. So add a comment. Please open a new issue using English only. Thanks. And let's do issue.close. And obviously this needs a throws IO exception, just like Guillaume mentioned earlier. So hopefully, I need to save. So yeah.
You need to start the app.
Excuse me?
You need to start the app.
I need to start the app. Yes, I actually do need to do that. So let's start the app. Quarkus dev. And hopefully everything worked. A few times when I was practicing this, because I had not saved, like nothing worked, and I'm like banging my head because I'm an IntelliJ user. I never have to save anything. I'm banging my head like, what's going on? But after like half an hour, I figured it out. Felt pretty terrible. But let's hopefully this time things work. Now, we have a repository that's already been configured to use this. So let's see. I'll open a new issue. New issue. So I'm going to start with English, right? And hopefully it won't close it. This is English. Let's see. Submit a new issue. Everything seems to be working fine. The issue's still there. Nothing happened. That's the expected behavior. Oh, it's not applicable because it implies a superiority. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. This is a demo, a next demo. So, yeah. So what is happening essentially is that we have a sentiment analysis service running on the comments, and it jumped the gun and said that, yeah, you're being whatever. But the important thing here is that it didn't close the issue because the language detector didn't detect that it's not English, because it is. So let's just go ahead and close this, and I'll open a new issue, and I'll write something, new issue, and I'll write something in Greek. And because let's just copy something here. Me paying the Greek government a whole bunch of money. So let's see. Hopefully it will comment that, you know what, this is in English, please reopen. Let's see. Awesome, right? How cool is that? Like, think about it. Without AI, how you would implement this use case. It's basically very hard to do, but with AI, it's as simple as like defining one interface, 2 annotations, and that's it, right? It's so simple, and it's so for me at least, mind-blowing, right? Now, since this thing jumped the gun already and did the sentiment analysis, let's show the sentiment analysis code. So the listener is the same thing, right? We don't need to go through that because it did the same thing, just gets the payload, checks if it's warning or whatever, and then comments, closes, whatever. Now, what's important here is the sentiment analysis. So again, we're going to do that with AI. So we're saying, you are a community, we're giving it the context. So this is what the system message does. You are a community moderator. Your role is to analyze comments to make sure people stay civil and our community is inclusive. The comment to analyze limited by blah, blah, blah. If the comment is fine, return safe. Otherwise, no. Okay, so like earlier, because I said like this is English, it thought that it was inappropriate, which is interesting. So let's make sure that I'll write something that's not inappropriate this time. And let's see. Hopefully it will. New null pointer exception in 3.15.1. I just upgraded to 3.15.1 from, I don't know, let's say 3.8.6, and my logs are full of this new. Can you help me fix it? Let's see. So I'm assuming that nothing's going to happen here because this is a perfectly valid issue description, right? And yeah, we waited, nothing happens, looks great. So that was the sentiment analysis part. Now, let's go into, yeah, we have like 10 minutes, so let's do like one more with a screenshot maybe.
Sure.
So the screenshot listener. Now, what have I done here? Yeah, I need to copy essentially a screenshot URL, right? That's the idea. Let's see. Yeah, so the idea here is that, remember what we had earlier, right? We had somebody uploading like this thing. So what we want to do is take an image and see if we can get, we can extract code from it. That's what this thing does. So convert screenshot to code. Let me try and take a screenshot here. And I'll open an issue with some code. So hopefully, let's see. Hopefully I'll be able to convert this thing to some code. Let's see. I'll take a screenshot. I will open a new issue. And let's see what happens. Let me close this old one. New. My code does not work. See my screenshot. And let's say I paste it here. Screenshots. Okay, so it's going to upload this. Let's see what happens. See my screenshot. So I just took something from VS Code, and miraculously, right, the model was able to take the image and convert it into code. And now, this image was just a screenshot from VS Code. It had a whole bunch of like cool stuff that VS Code adds in like different colors. And it wasn't even complete code, right? It says throw IO. It doesn't even say throw IO exception. But the model was so clever, and it understands code so well, and images in this case, that it's able to convert that into code, right? So like I said, we have users that for some reason, they prefer taking a screenshot and pasting that instead of actually like copying, pasting from the IDE of the code. So this is something that like helps us, instead of like telling you like, help me out or do extra work, we can have this like do the work automatically. And how it's done basically is like, okay, there's a bunch of regex code for me to just like pull the URL out, but that's not important. What is important is that here we are using a chat language model. So it's one of the lower level abstractions of LangChain4j, where you actually like handcraft the message that you're sending. And in this case, we're sending a message. We're saying that this image was reported on GitHub issue. If it's a snippet of Java code, please respond with Java code only. If not, respond with not an image, right? And then we're sending the image content, and we're telling it, okay, describe what it is. And that's what it does. So all the AI magic is hidden behind here. All the rest of the code that we will post on GitHub, by the way, so you don't need to like try and go through it here, is basically just like plumbing, getting the URLs, and then mapping from URLs to images and creating comments. So if I had like multiple screenshots, it would go through multiple, it would find them all and like map one-to-one, right? So we have 8 more minutes. I think you want to do some more stuff, right? So let's head to that.
Yeah, so what we are showing you today are really what we struggle with daily in the Quarkus project.
Yeah, so this isn't like made up stuff. This is stuff that we encounter like day in and day out, and with stuff that we've been hoping that we could solve, and now we can with AI, right?
So this is a different sort of problem. So first, we are showing you a lot of things reacting to issue opened and comments and things like that. But you have a whole set of extensions. You can react to workflow runs, to a lot of events on GitHub. Basically, most of them, you can react to them. So this is not limited to listening to issue. You can do a ton of stuff. You can analyze pull requests, analyze workflow runs, whatever. So this is an issue that we often have, meaning that we have someone who asks how I can contribute, or you want to point someone to a particular section of the contributing.md to rebuild Quarkus or whatever. The thing is that every time you have to do that, you have to click and go back to find the link, and it's annoying, and it's all about the context switches that I was talking earlier. It's kind of annoying. The problem is that if you have a bot with some commands that are actually quite strict, it's also will be annoying because you won't remember the command, so you will have to look at what is the command to actually get what I want. So the idea of using AI is that you have some fuzzy thing in it, so you can ask something that is not exactly the command that you would execute. So the idea is basically you are an assistant for a Java project, and your job is to provide useful pointers. So I just put a list of pointers. If we want help about contributing to the project, you point the user to this link. If you want help about whatever, memory allocation issues, you have another link. So you can just have a list of links there. And then this is the interesting part. So there is another feature in Quarkus GitHub app where you can actually develop command-based command. Command-based command, it's hard to say. So
command-based comments.
So the idea is that typically what you do with dependabot, you say at dependabot rebase. The idea is to make it simple to do that. And for that, we are using a small CLI implementation, which will analyze the command and will route it to the appropriate command. So here we are just creating a command. We have permissions, so we can say, oh, only do this if the person can actually write to the repository because we don't want random people to actually use this feature. And then we will just call the AI service with the command. So here you have the arguments of the command. It's used for CLI, so that's why you have a list of string. And then you can just push it to the AI. So it should work. So if I go to the browser and I say, oh, yes, except it's not my keyboard, so it's going to be a nightmare. Let me switch to French. And now I will try to find the... I
think you should just sit down in the chair.
Yeah. So explain how to contribute to the project.
Oh, there it is.
So you have some nice feedback coming from the GitHub app thing. It's bundled in it. It will say, OK, I understood the command. If the command is not understandable, it will you will have a thumb down, and then you have the AI coming and actually helping you. And that's what we are trying to show you here, is that you can actually use AI to solve issues that are hard to solve without it. You don't need to use AI every time, but at least when it makes sense, it's nice. The other thing that I wanted to show you is some triage. So the triage is a lot more involved. At the moment, we are doing it with a YAML file, which has some keywords, some regex, and saying, oh, if you are talking about Hibernate validator, then ping Guillaume and add the label for Hibernate validator. So this is nice, but it's a bit limited. And I was wondering, oh, what would it be to do it with AI? And the first step is that you need to inject all the existing issues with their labels into a database. You create embeddings for it. So it's a vector representation of your text that AI will understand. So we developed an ingester to actually inject the data. This is relatively simple to do. And then I tried to experiment with this thing. And it actually went relatively well, except that, so the idea is that I give it a prompt, and I say, oh, you are in charge of triaging issues. Find the 10 issues that are looking a lot like the one that is coming, and get the labels. And AI will do retrieval augmented generation to actually interrogate the database, get the most relevant issues, and get the labels and affect them. Thing is, it doesn't work very well. The fact is that I did 2 versions of it, and using AI is actually worse than just using the vector database. Just using the vector database and interrogating it and say, oh, give me the documents that are relevant, and I will get the label and affect it, works a lot better. It was more stable than using AI. With AI, I had sometimes some weird behavior with labels popping that were a bit weird. So, yeah, that sometimes you have to try it. Sometimes it won't work. Sometimes it will work, and that's the general idea. So, if we go back here, yeah. So, thing is that there are 2 messages here. The first one is that automation is really nice, and that you should do it. Even if you don't see the pain, it's there, and it will make your life really, really easier. The other thing is that you should start small, meaning that you don't need to write something and think for hours about what you should do. You should just take one small task and automate it. And this way, it will start the journey. And you have seen it's really simple to do it. So just do it.
Yeah, and the other part is like AI is just another tool in your toolbox, right? It doesn't magically solve all your problems, but it can solve a whole new series of problems that were up until now very hard to solve, like language detection or like image, OCR type stuff, right? So you very much need to choose wisely, and one of the reasons is this stuff costs, right? It's not free, and especially if like you're using it a lot, the bills can come in significantly. So yeah, here's a bunch of links about Quarkus itself, and I think you added some more stuff too, right?
Yeah.
There's where to learn about LangChain, the GitHub app, GitHub Actions. And also there's a few more talks later on about Quarkus and LangChain. So definitely a lot more stuff to check out. We're over time, so thank you very much for coming. The QR code, yes, let's do the QR codes, yes, very good. Thank you very much for coming, and we will, thank you. And we'll probably be at the Red Hat booth, so we can answer any questions you have about Quarkus or LangChain or GitHub and all that cool stuff.
Thank you.
All systems are nominal. Initialize Genesis sequence.